Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we're going to be making the drawers and getting everything together and getting really close to finish. So I'm getting excited about this. Let's dive in. Let's make these drawers happen. So the first thing I need to do is cut a groove in the bottom of these that will hold the bottom in. And in order to do that, we need to sharpen my grooving plane. And this is one that I made a long time ago. It was one of the first tools I ever made, and I use it all the time. Anytime I need to make a groove, this is what I grab, and it is so fast, so easy, and so much fun. I did a live video recently on the main channel where I actually went through and showed making one of these out of a scrap piece of firewood. But it's just set up to cut a groove at 1/4 inch in and 1/4 inch down. And it makes the groove precisely every time, and you get these fantastic curls that are just, yes, that's so much fun. This is one of these steps that I just look forward to every time, because that is pure enjoyment right there. And of course, it's always done. And now we have to move on to another form of pure enjoyment, and a little bit more of a twisted form, resawing. I need to resaw 4 boards in half, and so we're using a marking gauge to mark a line. I'll mark from one side, and then I'll flip the board over and mark from the other side, and that way I get 2 lines that show me exactly where the center of the board is. And I try to make these about the size of the saw curve, but it allows me to follow it. So if there's any variance in the width of the board, I know I'm going right down the middle of the board. Now, before resawing, I've started making a habit of sharpening my saw before doing any decent amount of resawing. And in this case, I'm going to be doing, what is it? It's 6 feet of 9-inch board. So 9-inch wide resawing, 6 feet long. Yay! It's over 4 panels. And I used to use a kerfing plane to create a curve all around the board. But as the sawing skill improves, I do that less and less. The biggest skill to make the kerf work well is don't push the saw. Let the saw do the work. Provide it some force and just let the saw do it, and it will do the work for you. Whether it's a push or pull, the saw will track nicely. But if you actually force the saw, then it will start to go off course, as long as the saw is actually set up well. There we go. I am really happy with how these came out. Had a couple where it went slightly off, but most of them were really nice. Next thing I'm going to do is put those 2 pieces back together, and I'm going to joint one edge. I'm going to joint them together because we are going to glue these 2 edges together. So clamp them together, run a plane across it, and that way if there's any variance in the plane, there'll be compensating variances from one side to the other. And then we need to glue them up. So panel gluing time. And you need clamps for this. Lots of clamps. And no matter how many I do, there's always like, ooh, I could use a couple more clamps. So on these ones, I put 3 clamps each and gave them a decent crank until we had good glue squeeze out. And that is about it for the panels. Let them set aside, and we can come back tomorrow. Now for the glue squeeze out in the bottom, I'm just going to get rid of some of the major glue buttons and things sticking out. And I'm going to leave the bottom rough sawn. So if you ever flip over one of these drawers, you will feel that bottom where all these saw curves were. And I just kind of like doing that because it just makes the saw feel much more. For the top side, I'm going to use a chisel to clean it out and then scrape down so we can get rid of it. Now I want to fit it into those 1/4 inch grooves, but this is slightly thicker than 1/4 inch. So I'm going to use a plane to pillow the sides, and I'm going to come at an angle and clean them up. So these panels are actually a little less than 3/8 thick. And so what I can do is skew the plane and get a bit of an angle in there until it fits in nice and tight like that. So the very edge is 1/4 inch. Now the next thing I want to do is once I have one edge true, I'm going to use that to square off the other side and plane it down. Once I have 2 edges that are true, then I can come through and actually mark how long it needs to be and how wide it needs to be. So I'm going to put the actual board in there and make marks, and then set my panel gauge into that to mark out exactly how wide this board needs to be. Take it over to the sawhorse, the saw bench, and cut it down. You have to be very careful with thin things like this. If you push the saw too hard, you'll snap it off, and you could end up breaking your board where you don't want it to. With the crosscut, it's a little bit easier because there's more support for all the fibers, but when you're ripping it, be very careful. Then we're going to take it back over the bench, and again we're going to pillow all 4 sides until they fit into the groove, nice and tight like, and then it's basically ready. Well, except for this one, I've just got to do all the final fit up and make sure that it all slides in and our bottom fits in. Width-wise, I want to leave a little bit of space so that the board can expand and contract. I am going to completely capture it, but the the grain on it is actually going to go side to side on this one, because that is the smaller distance. The drawers are deeper than they are wide, and that way the expansion and contraction is in the least profile. Now for the front edge of the drawers, I want to put a recess so I can stick my fingers in there. Originally I was going to do a little bit of a geometric shape in there, but I thought, you know what, since we have the curved legs, I'm going to do the curved bow on here. And after showing it to a bunch of people, I had a whole pile of comments saying, you really need to curve the front, curve the front, curve the front. And so I was like, okay, I'll curve the front. So we draw the line with a bow, a drawing bow, which I have a video on that. And then I cut down to the line, or close to it, and then chisel back. And the depths of those cuts then give me an accurate spot that I can cut down to. I'll bring in the spoke shave and get them really close to the line, and then I'm going to bring in a compass plane to just take off the final bits and smooth it out, and I'll get a nice smooth even curve all the way across. And then I can use that as my template to mark all three others, and that way they're all the exact same. Come back in and repeat the process. Chisel down to the line, or in that case a little bit past the line, and trim them out. One of the few times where a compass plane is very useful. Now we're going to get to one of my favorite parts. The docking drawer. Yes, I got a docking drawer for this, and this is going to allow me to have an outlet in the back of the top drawer so I can plug in all my electronics, my headphones and things like that, and close the drawer and let them charge inside the drawer. This comes with a pattern that you can lay out to actually cut the hole in the back that the outlet goes into. And it's a really simple instruction. You're just going to cut this rectangle in the back of the drawer. You inset the drawer into it and then mount it all and plug it in. And so it's really easy. Now for the astute among you, you'll realize that I used the wrong side of this pattern. I actually used it, they come in two different sizes, one with one outlet and one with two outlets. And I drew the box originally for the one with one outlet, which was, the blade. But I have the duo, and so I need to make this a little bit larger, which I'll do a little bit later. But for right now, we'll just go on with this. So once I have it laid out, I'm going to drill holes in the corners, and then I'm going to connect the dots between them. And I drill from one side, and then let the lead screw pop out just a little bit, turn around, drill from the other side, so I get a really nice clean hole. And I'm going to cut this a bunch of different ways just to show different tools. If I have a coping saw, it makes it rather quick to go all the way across. Or I could do it with a turning saw. Or here I have a keyhole saw, which I actually really like. Once you get it started, this thing actually goes really, really fast. Especially this one has a rip tooth on it. So it runs right on down this board, and I can connect from dot to dot. It allows you to get into small spaces and work very well. But then there's also these little things. And this is fun. This is basically a motorized or hand-powered coping saw, and it keeps a perfect vertical up and down, so you're getting a nice clean cut, and it is incredibly fun to work with. So I like to pull it out from time to time. I do have a foot-powered scroll saw, but it won't work with 3/4 material. It needs to be ever so slightly thinner than 3/4, so it just didn't work on this. So I've cut 3 of the sides, and then we're going to bring it back over here and then use the keyhole saw to rip down it, because I can't rip down the long distance on the mechanical coping saw. Oh well. So there's our hole, but it's a little too short, so I actually had to go back and lengthen it out, drill 4 more holes, and cut it a little bit longer to fit the duo size. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're using the right side of the paper, so you're using the right pattern. Come in with a file, clean it up, square up the corners, and ooh la la, I'm happy. So here you can see how it will fit in there. It has a couple mounting screws, and then you can put the faceplate that comes with it. Now let's actually do the glue up on the drawers. So we have all the drawers finished and completed, and we're going to glue them up so that we can do the final touches on them. I am using epoxy on this as well. I'm using the Total Boat High Performance. And the reason I'm using this over a wood glue is it gives me far more working time, and I can mix up a batch, and I have some time to actually work around on it. Now, it's not necessary, but because I'm using epoxy and everything else, I figured I'd go ahead and use it on this. And this also is very good if you are uncertain about your gaps. Epoxy is one of the best glues for gap filling. So we're going to clamp down all the dovetails, or glue down all the dovetails, and then clamp the snot out of this. It's a little bit tricky making sure the drawer bottom gets in there and is snug all the way around. Once it goes down, it is very, very pleasing. So I have a set of clamps on either side squeezing the tails in, and then I'm going to have a set of clamps from either side squeezing the pins into place. But it's a fairly straightforward process. Make sure your glue is on the spaces where you have long grain to long grain. Where you have in grain connecting into the long grain, you're really not going to have as good a joint. But again, with the epoxy, it is far better than the standard wood glue. Working it into all the corners, especially with the half-blind dovetails, it just, yeah. So we can clamp them all up, set them aside, and come back tomorrow and do some more work on it. But that's about as far as we're going to be able to get on this video. On the next one, we're actually going to be doing all the detail on it. But I'm just really happy because at this point now we have drawers in our cabinet, and you can see how these all come together. It just makes me very pleased. So yes, drawers that slide in and out, and they actually slide in pretty well. Some of them need a little bit of, I'm going to need to do a little detail to make them slide well, but they actually go in very well and run very nicely on the drawers. This one's from a little later where I have them all together, and I've done a little bit of the next video's work, but yeah, I'm happy. This is really coming together, and I'm loving the look of this drawer set. So there you have it. We are getting right down to the line. One more video and we'll be done with this. So now everything is functioning-ish. I still have to make the slide grooves and the rest of the drawers. But next time we're actually be doing all of the detail, all of the final little steps, installing the docking drawer, which I'm really getting excited about. That is actually a power outlet that goes in the back of the top drawer. That way I can charge my headphones, electronics, and my phone, put them in the drawer, and close them away so they're not distracting me when I'm trying to get work done. So I'm really looking forward to getting that in. So hopefully next time all the finish will be on it. We can put it into place and give it a test run. So yes, I'm getting excited. If you do have any questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns, snide remarks, let me know those in the comments down below. Also, I want to say a huge thank you to the patrons on Patreon and members here on the YouTube channel. There's a join button down there. Everyone who's helping out in that way is making this channel happen. So thank you for that. Without patrons and members, this channel would not exist. Also, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone scrolling over on the side. You guys are the cream of the crop and the reason we're going. So thank you for that. If you'd like to find out more, there's links to it down below. So that's it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. This is a serious mountain of work, but that's not funny, because everyone knows a mountain is just hill areas.